this is Miss Leonard here. I'm creating a video demonstrating the odd or even app that we're building in class. So you can follow along with the video if you were absent, or if you're stuck, you can pause the video and go back to a part of the project that you missed. So I'm going to start with clicking on New Project. We're going to name this app Odd or Even. I'm going to click OK and get started on this app. I'm going to switch to iOS 13, so it's an iPhone screen. I'm going to rename where it says Screen 1. I'm going to change that name to say Odd or Even, question mark. So we're going to design this app for young students that are just learning the concept of odd or even. When children are young, they learn using math counters, where they will divide a group of counters into two equal groups. And if they have no leftover counters, they know that that number is even. And if they try to divide the counters into two equal groups and they have one leftover counter, they understand that that number is odd. So at a very young age, children are taught about division and remainders using those counters. And you may remember that from when you were younger, trying to divide groups into two equal parts. So at the top, we're actually going to put a little label that explains that concept to the user. So I made a label, and in that label, I'm going to say even numbers have a remainder of 0 when divided by 2. All right, make that bold. And then underneath that, a second label that says odd numbers have a remainder of 0, nope, 1 when divided by 2. Pretty simple concept that you learned when you were young, but to a kindergartner or a first grader, this is a brand new idea. So, all right, I'm going to actually center my screen so that everything is in the middle. All right, so we have that little introduction to the top. Even numbers have a remainder of 0 when divided by 2, and odd numbers have a remainder of 1 when divided by 2. Now, in first grade, they don't understand the concept of division yet or the word remainder, but they still can understand the concept of dividing counters into two equal groups. So this is a concept they can pick up at a very young age. All right, we're going to grab a button, stick that here. And this button, I'm going to rename, instead of button 1, I'm going to name this button random. Okay, and on the button, I'm going to have it say random number. And since this is for young kids, I'm going to make the type really big. And I'm going to make my button shape. I'm going to make it rounded. I'm going to make the background color of the button nice and bright. Maybe like a shade of orange because it's currently fall, so why not? Text color, I guess I'll go with black. All right, so they click that button and it's going to generate just a random number. And then the child will say, oh, the number 10 is even, because they understand that when you divide 10 by 2, I get two equal groups of 5 and I don't have a remainder, so that's even. So this button's going to generate a random number. So underneath, I'm going to make another label. This label is going to say, is this number odd or even? Question mark. And then another label underneath that. And this label is just going to have a big number in it. I'm just going to put 10 in it for now. And I'm going to make it really big on my screen. I'm going to go with 36 point, even bigger. Let's go with 48 font. And I'm going to make this label a little bigger too because it's a little hard to see. Okay. Is this number odd or even? I'll see the number 10 and then the the kid will say, oh, that's even, and they'll click on the even button, and the notifier will pop up and say, correct, 10 is an even number. All right, so I'm going to rename label 4, which is the 10. Label 4 is going to be label random number, because I'm going to be coding that label. So I want to know exactly the name of it so I can code it later. I'm going to make this red so it's like really shows up on my screen. Underneath that number, I'm going to drag in, I'm going to go to layout, and I'm going to drag in a horizontal arrangement. I'm going to make it fill the screen. So for width, fill parent. Inside there, I'm going to add a label and 2 buttons. So label, and my label is going to say tap your answer, or just tap your choice, something like that. And then I put 2 buttons next to that. This button here and a button here. This button is going to say odd, and this button is going to say even. I'm going to center everything inside of that horizontal arrangement, so it's laid out like that. Button 1, I'm going to rename it because I'm going to be coding that button, so I should name it. Button 1 is going to be the button odd choice. And button 2, I'm going to rename even choice. Button even choice. All right, one more thing we need. We need to give feedback to our user. If they get it right, they get a notifier that says correct. If they get it wrong, they're going to get a notifier that says incorrect. Also, I'm going to add a little picture down here. So I have all this open space. I'm going to add a little cartoon because it's for kids. So I'll add a little cartoon to the bottom, a little math cartoon. All right, so I need a notifier for sure. And this notifier I'm going to use as an alert. So over on the right side for the settings or the properties for notifier 1, for the length, I want it to just be a short alert. It's going to say correct and then go away, or incorrect and then go away. So I'm going to change that length to short. Or I'll add the picture later. Let's code. So I'm going to switch to blocks. If you need to pause the video and finish setting up your screen, you can. Or if you want to make type bigger or buttons bigger, go ahead. I'm going to switch to coding now. All right, first thing we need to do is we have a number that's going to change every time the user clicks a button. So anytime we have a number that's going to be changing, we need a global variable. So on the left side, I'm going to go to variables, and I'm going to initialize a global variable. I'm going to zoom in a little bit. I'm going to name this num random. All right, and I'm going to start the name of my variable with num to make it clear that the data type for this variable is a number, and it's going to be a random number. And it doesn't matter what I initialize it at, because as soon as the user clicks that button, it's going to change 0 or whatever this number is as soon as they click the button. So it does not matter. So I'm going to leave it as 0. Next thing I need to code is the random button. So on the left side here, I'm going to find my random button, which I named. So what I want to happen is when the user clicks the random button, this variable named numRandom is going to change. So I'm going to grab this set block, because anytime we change a variable, we use the set block. And I want it to change to a random number from 0 to 1,000. So I'm going to go to math, and I'm going to find that random number generator. There it is, random integer from, and I'm going to choose from 0 to 1,000. You can go bigger than 1,000, but let's start with 0, because children need to also learn that 0 is an even number. So let's start with 0. After the random number is assigned to numRandom, I also need to change this number 10 right here to that random number. So this is a label random number, I named it. So I need that label to also change, and I need it to change immediately after this random integer is picked. So I'm going to go to the label that I named random number, and I'm going to set the text. Set the text, label random number text to, and I need it to change to whatever the current value of numRandom is, which is a random number from 0 to 1000. So if I need a current value, I need to get global numRandom. All right, that's all the random button does. It just makes a random number and it changes the label. The next thing is the user needs to pick, with the two buttons we made, is it odd or is it even? Okay. When I click odd, it's going to say yes, you're right, or no, you're wrong. And when I click even, it's going to say yes, you're right, or no, you're wrong. So let's code, let's do the odd one first. All right, so we're going to kind of move this guy off to the side. First thing I need to do is check to see if the random number is, this is odd. So the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to check to see if it's odd, right? Because I'm going to use an if then else. If it's odd, if then else. If that random number is odd, then have the notifier tell them they're correct. And if it's not odd, that's the else. Tell the user that they are incorrect. So if it's odd, correct, else incorrect. So in this if here, I need to check to see if that random number, when divided by 2, should have a remainder of 1. And in order to check if a number has a remainder after division, we use mod. So in App Inventor, we have a block called modulo of blank divided by blank. This is going to check to see if the random number, when divided by 2, because that's how we decide if something's odd or even, we divide it into 2 equal groups. Okay? If the result of this is 1, then the number is odd. Because if the remainder is 1, right? If the remainder of random number divided by 2 is 1, I know my number is odd. Because 9 divided by 2 is 4, remainder 1. Right? 15 divided by 2, or 15 mod 2, would be 7, remainder 1. So that's an odd number. All right, so if modulo of random number divided by 2 equals 1, then I'm going to call my notifier to tell my, and I'm going to use an alert because I just want it to pop up for a second. Show alert. Call that notifier to say, you are correct. Let's grab a join block. And in that join block, I'm going to actually do 3 strings of text. 1, 2, 3. 3 strings. And we're going to concatenate them, join them together. Concatenate is just another word for join text. All right, I'm going to say correct. And put a space after that just so that when it joins with the next string, there's a little gap. Correct. That number put a space at the beginning, so there's a little gap there. It's an odd number. All right, else, let's copy this. We're going to say incorrect. Now, these are kids, so we don't want to make them feel bad about themselves, but we still need to tell them they're wrong. Incorrect. We're going to say this number is not an odd number. And then we're also going to say try again. All right. So if this is how we do the odd choice, let's just duplicate this and just swap out a couple things for even. So when I click my even choice, when an even number is divided by 2, the remainder is always going to be 0, because you could divide an even number into 2 equal groups and you do not have any leftover remainders. And then down here, all I have to change in my notifiers instead of odd, correct, that number's even. Else, pop this up, blank is not an even number. Oops, I have a spelling error in my notifier, not an odd number, try again. And then this one says is not an even number, try again. So let me zoom out. Pretty simple code here. We have a variable named numRandom. We initialize it to a value of 0. When the user clicks the random button, it's going to change the value and it's going to reassign numRandom to a random integer from 0 to 1,000. It's also going to change my label to whatever the current value of numRandom is. Then the user is going to say if it's odd or even, and then the notifier is going to tell them if they got it right or wrong. So this is a really great way for someone who's just learning the concept of odd and even to practice their skills in a really simple app. Also, this is a really great way for you guys to use mod in programming.